I mean, Curse, you could slice it how many you want. Maybe Mike has a better take on that, but my take is just a failure there. It's a failure. What they could have done with the protagonist, the main
Oh yeah,
protagonist.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Sadly.
I guess we
I can't. Like, what am I gonna say? I can't defend it, man. So.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your host Chris, and we are here to talk none other than Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the highlight of the DC universe. Right? No, or is this the end of? Is this the screeching halt to the DC universe?
No, we still got
We still got the Flash.
Flash and Aquaman too.
Oh.
The malarkey of power has changed in the DC universe.
Okay, so with me today to discuss Shazam and the overall state of the DC universe as we're having this discussion, it is of course my best pals in the world. It's James and Mike. How you guys doing?
Solid.
Hanging in there. I'm glad spring is coming around the corner. Tired of all this snow.
What's spring like for you over there in Fahrenheit? What's spring like?
In Fahrenheit, we'll hit 10, 12 degrees sometime around end of May, and we'll finally lose the snow around July for about a month.
He's on the wrong side of the lake over there. Over here, we had like at the beginning of this month, it was like Mother Nature forgot her homework and was like, "Oh shit, snow! I forgot snow this year," and she dumped like three different times. We got like levels of snow that stayed on the ground, which we hadn't all year. But now it switched to like 50 degrees. We're good. 45 degrees, 50 degrees. Perfect spring weather.
It's pretty solid. Serena texted me today. Her school are having an outdoor party. 76 degrees today.
Where the hell is she?
Down in DC.
Wow.
76?
Which is, 76.
I'm surprised my mother didn't call me from down there. She would love to tell me how warm it is.
No wonder the politicians don't want to fight climate change.
That's right. They think it's perfect.
It's too nice out there, yeah.
They don't even know when it snows down there. They'll shut everything down at the threat of snow. So they don't even know what happens.
Right.
It's okay. It's just California. They don't care about that either. All right. Let's talk about Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which is the new PG-13 action comedy in the DCU. Continues the story of Billy Batson upon casting the magic word Shazam, transforms into his giant superhero, Zach Levi, right?
A clown.
Got it.
And becomes a completely different person in the process. And in this, the sequel to the hit movie Shazam.
I won't say hit.
Right. But did better than this one, that's for sure. So
that is true.
In this movie, we have Billy trying to come to grips with turning 18 and trying to be the leader of the Shazam League, because at the end of the last one, he gave all his brothers and sisters the powers, and so they're out there trying to save the city and being hated for it, a la Spider-Man. And then they run into a couple of Greek gods who apparently exist. Now,
Daughters of Atlas.
Your synopsis is better than the actual movie, by the way.
Now, what I didn't get... Now, I want you guys to explain this to me, because anybody who's watched this probably watched this movie, so they understand what I'm saying. I really didn't understand what happened to the daughters to make them so pissed off. So I know the wizard apparently stole the powers of the Greek gods to pass along, or did he get them gifted to him?
Apparently, from what I understood, he stole them.
Okay.
And then something happened to Atlas.
He didn't steal... So this is the confusion with this entire DC universe. We've already watched Wonder Woman, and we know Ares and Zeus, and we've seen Justice League.
Right.
So we know the gods existed, but we don't quite get the timeline at which point did the wizard steal their powers because Ares was around in 1917.
That's right.
I don't know when the wizard came and stole
Right,
their powers. I don't know which gods were still alive for his powers to be stolen.
Well,
and
Zeus
Zeus
had
They're
to
all dead except
Zeus
for
had to be
Ares.
around to kick Uax's ass. Like that happened.
and
We saw
Darkseid, he was
Correct.
tossing lightning bolts at Darkseid, right?
one shot,
But that
baby.
was like 3,000 years ago. That was 3,000 years ago.
Right.
So we got to look at Wonder Woman as like the Rubicon here.
Well,
Yeah,
From
if
1917
we
on.
really want to get confusing, why are the women of Themyscira called Amazons that
Oh, let's not get to
worship
that.
Greek
Let's not get to
gods?
that. Let's
but
not get to
but
that.
when
To
when
answer
did
Chris's
Black Adam
question as
take
best as we
place?
can.
Because Black Adam, Shazam,
Modern time. Oh, I mean, the Black Adam
the
present
no
day
no no. When did Black Adam originally get his powers?
become Black Adam?
Yes.
Like 5,000 BC, or 3,000 BC, peak Egyptian time.
So this happened well before that. So this throws all of the timeline
Yeah.
off because that means the
Yeah.
Shazam wizard had the powers to give away then. But technically that happened before the coming of Uax, right? Because you said that was 3,000 years ago.
Correct. Yeah. But the sisters are at least 6,000 years old. Which, yeah.
None of
Dude,
this makes
us
sense.
trying to rationalize
Absolutely
this
none of
doesn't
this
make
makes
sense.
sense.
So let's just
Okay,
turn our brain off.
turned off. I'm so confused. Let me tell you, this opening was hard for me. I'm not sure Mike's going to edit to sound perfectly, but I had such a problem starting it because this movie just short circuited my brain multiple times as I'm watching it, not quite understanding when, how, who, what direction it's heading. It was rather confusing overall. Let's start with this. Were you guys after the last Shazam movie? Were you guys interested in this? Was this something you were going to have fun with? Did you hope it was going to connect to Black Adam? Was there part of the larger DCU you thought it could cover? What did you guys think of coming up to this movie before you watched it?
Go, Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
You don't want to hear my
Yeah,
answer.
I was looking forward to it. I mean, I like Zach Levi. I liked him from Chuck, and I enjoyed the first movie. It wasn't like the greatest movie. It. You know what? I mean, honestly, I enjoyed it more than I did Justice League or BVS
Yeah, I agree
because
with that.
it had a little bit more humor into it. It was excuse
More
me.
heart
It was
had more heart
marvelized.
in.
Yeah, a little
Marvelized.
more color in it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So what? What?
He's
Marvel.
calling it a
Was
Marvel movie.
marvelized.
He's telling
Okay, a
Marvelized.
Marvelized
It was
movie. Okay,
marvelized.
I get.
That's why
I
you
guess
liked
you can
it.
say that.
I would say it's actually more Batman Brave and Bold. There's a side of the DC that has the humor, and we've seen it in the animated movie and usually and stuff like that or
We're going
on
there.
television.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
can't just calling everything Marvelized. I know you were joking, James, but people online love to do this. They said, "Oh, it's a Marvel movie." But dude, go watch any DC property that's not a Zack Snyder property and there's fun, there's humor, there's lightness. Not all of it.
I mean, you could go back to Christopher Reeve. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Superman. Plenty
Exactly.
of humor in that, right?
The
So
OG, yeah.
yeah,
Started the whole thing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I was So I was looking forward to this one, and just because as well as the whole shakeup at DC, you kind of want to just close it out and go, see how they're gonna finish things off, and then after the whole thing with Black Adam, especially too. So, but I didn't have high expectations for it,
Mm-hmm.
and then especially seeing early reviews, I was like, oh, this movie sounds like it's in trouble.
Right.
So and they were right for the most part. But overall, I'll just say right out the bat, like I did enjoy this more than I thought I would, and it's got a lot of problems, but there were some fun parts to it still.
Yeah. This weird how DC has hired like a bunch of horror directors to come over and do this. Is this Was this a problem with the story? Is this a problem with the it can't be a director problem because we liked the first Shazam enough, and he's
It's
the
not a
same
director. It's
guy.
not a director.
You know,
It's content. The content. You're getting there. I think my job today is to draw it out of both of you, gentlemen. Why this movie is a failure. You guys are being very, highbrow, and let's just be honest, dude. The script was terrible. Most of the acting was terrible, and then the set pieces were terrible. Like we go from what's her name being Doctor Strange kind of to like this bubble zone to some terrible dragons. I'm like, we saw terrible CGI in Black Adam in the third act. People accuse Marvel of having terrible CGI. Let's just say, other than James Cameron, all these movies are having bad CGI problems. It's not
yeah,
just Marvel.
yeah. James
So
is putting
taking that
everybody
out the
to.
equation, yeah, let's just be honest. Even Star Wars in some cases.
Right.
But let's just focusing on what. Okay, to answer your original question, Chris, I had no expectation in this movie when it was first announced, and then over the last year when it was announced from last summer, my expectations were getting lower and lower and lower. And then when we heard the whole DCU being retcon, it was even lower. And when that first trailer, I think Mike and I did trailer reaction. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
It didn't get any better. And then eventually, as I started hearing, word of mouth from people who already did advanced screening, I was putting two and two together because people usually who get the early advanced screenings are not going to be brutally honest because they want to maintain their connections with that studio. But I was reading in between the words, like marvelous new take, creative, a family must see. I'm like, okay, I know what this means.
This is
It's
the
pure
most
garbage.
Chris Pine
Yes,
performance ever.
Chris Pine performance
Yeah.
since Chris Pine in Star Trek One. No, so I honestly, I forced myself to watch it only because this is what we do here on Here is Peak. We watch the good and the bad, and we give our honest takes.
Yeah.
So I did it as unnecessary homework assignment, and I knew
Better than
going
I
in
am.
it wasn't going to be good, and here we are talking about it. So that's
All right. So we
to
should
follow up
break
on
it down
Mike.
then, because for me, it sounds like James has a problem with the plot. He has a problem with the story, and he has a problem with the production. So
All of
let's
it.
start with the plot. Why don't we start with the plot then? Tell me your problems with the plot, and I'll give you my counter argument.
My problems with the plot is we left off Shazam 1, where yes, he distributed his powers equally across his foster brothers and sisters, and they gave you after credits scene knowing that he would be part of a larger superhero group, right? Because Henry Cavill's Superman was shown, although
No,
next
headless
below.
Superman was shown, just like you got
Yeah,
headless Wonder Woman.
this movie's plot introduced these other gods that from what we know, they no longer existed in the DC universe, but somehow are alive, and they were manipulating Shazam to get their powers back to grow this magical city on Earth, right? And then each one of these characters, other than Fred, I think Fred was in,
Freddy,
to
yeah.
me was a total made no sense. Like their character development regressed. Everyone except for Fred regressed to the point where they were lesser than they were in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the plot continues, the wizard, who was and I God bless the actor. I'm probably killing his name, Dijon. Who I saw a Variety
Good
magazine where
luck.
he's been saying that he hasn't been getting paid. He hasn't been getting
Paid
paid
that
his
man.
fair
Pay that man.
share in
James
Hollywood.
Gunn. It's James Gunn's
Like
fault.
his character was a freaking mockery from
You
the
talking about
first movie.
Diamond Hansu?
Diamond Hansu.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
His character that was established in the first movie seemed like a clown in this movie, and the part that he played in this movie, story wise, made absolutely no sense. And then for Billy, we can go on and on about Billy and how terrible. But I'm sticking to the plot.
Yeah, stick to the
I'm
plot.
on
We'll
point.
talk about the
Stay on
yeah,
target. Stay on
Right.
target. So
the
then the
acting
plot was
afterwards.
what was the plot for them to do was to and the internal fighting between the three sisters.
I did not
was
see
to
that coming at
recreate,
all. I was like, where
uh,
did this come?
like a Mount Olympus of what they lost on Earth, but within a bubble.
No.
And then Billy sacrificed himself.
No.
And then Wonder Woman out of nowhere, who is a demigod, has the power to resurrect the dead with a staff that was broken, and then what?
Wow.
I got issues with
Then
all of that too.
how do you make me? Again, this is before they knew they
Yeah.
would not have a Shazam 3. Like, this entire plot to me was like a etch a sketch, paint by numbers. Let's throw this scene, let's throw that scene. There was no continuity. There was no story. There was no true story other than the fact that Billy's character was being aged out, and Fred, who actually probably had the best moments of the movie, was going through his own side story, and
Yeah.
somehow you throw all this stuff, and then you have the villains who had their own little problems. Dude, counter to me what story you think here makes
But did
sense.
you not see this
Counter
movie?
that.
Did you not see when Zach Levi said it's about family?
And then
I
did
saw that movie
everything on
twice.
his own.
That's
then,
right.
And then when
He
everybody
said
else
that
left
to the
out.
person who was in the Fast and Furious movie.
It was this
Oh,
story was a
bam!
commercial for Fast and Furious and Skittles.
Yeah.
The Skittles
so
commercial was great.
Let me just add a couple points. So
And House of the Dragon and the Game of Thrones, Khaleesi,
I want to add a
which is
couple points
also
real
Warner
quick.
Brothers property. I have to be careful about Warner Brothers. We love you
So I agree with you. Most of the characters were like relegated, like they were on the bench, and they had nobody in the starting lineup, but they had all these guys on the bench, and coach was like, "Nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it."
guys.
And,
Yeah, Steve Kerr looking at Mike. Hit me. I'll be open, Mike. And Mike is like, nah, man. We're going to
there
game
was a
7.
couple of
We're not
characters-
winning game 6.
couple characters. So Freddy, I thought the Freddy character was an improvement over the first movie for sure. There's the Billy and Shazam, that whole personality thing, which if we want to get into in a little bit, did not match at all between the Billy who was more adult than Zachary Levi's.
He was already
performance
kind of like that in the first one, but we kind of let it go as a
But,
Billy's getting to just, or Shazam
Yeah.
as Billy is getting to have fun like he didn't normally get to as a little
See,
kid.
but I was thinking about that too, Chris.
Now it's not.
I was thinking about that because I know people had mentioned it didn't really match in the first one, but I went back and I was thinking about it. Billy, in the first one, there was a scene in the beginning when he tricks the cops and steals the squad car and steals their lunch because he was trying to break into the bodega or something. And he does all these jokes and he's joking around with them, and that kind of reminded me of Zach Levi. So I kind of made a connection there that Billy. Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
but understand there's a time lapse between
No,
Billy
I'm just saying-
and the Billy we've seen.
I'm trying to
He's
say
saying
what I'm
first
trying to
Shazam
say
one.
is
grown.
No, what I'm saying is
He's
in the first
grown.
one, I saw more of a connection between Billy and Shazam. Then in this one, they was like a mile apart. The other character I do want to mention real quick that was it Pedro who was gay?
Oh yeah, the brother. What's his name?
Yeah.
The one,
Yeah,
the one
it was
Yeah,
Pedro.
Pedro.
It was Pedro. I know people complained online it was too woke or whatever, that they were like shoving it in our face, but there was only like 2 instances. The first one when he was watching baseball and he was like drooling over the baseball players.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
And then the second one where he came out and said he was gay. So I was like, why are people complaining that this is
And then
woke?
that character never says another word.
Right.
Like, never.
That's
says
the
another
reason.
word.
Yeah.
You know how the Elma series
Haven't watched it yet.
antagonized both the really right and the really left?
Yeah.
That character also antagonized people. And I've spoken to a family member, and they said that was a poor representation of being gay. Just throwing that, I felt like it was a check the box thing. Ooh, we have diversity, we've got LGBTQ representation,
Right.
But you really don't. You just have a character.
You just have a
who
character,
for 2
yeah.
scenes talks about it, but it doesn't show how it affects the character and
Or
how
the family or
it improves
anything,
the
yeah.
character. So if that's a disservice more than a service,
could've-
and then you've got the other.
They could have
groups
literally
who are
just put like a
"Whoa."
sign on one of the buildings that says "We support the LGBTQ community." Like that's all
Right.
That's all they were
And,
doing.
it offends both groups equally, because one group doesn't want to see it at all, and you're throwing it in their face, and another group is like, this doesn't really represent me. This feels like a disservice. It's offensive
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
its
it just
own
feels like
because
you're throwing it in
you're
just to throw it in,
belittling my
right?
community. Yeah, you belittling my community.
So
So
as
So
a
hang
go
on.
ahead, Mike.
Oh,
you go ahead, Mike.
yeah. Just one thing I want to add about the sisters, the daughters of Atlas. I'm with you, James. Like it got all confusing with the infighting because they had 3,000 years to basically work out a plan.
And
Then
then,
all of a sudden, Calypso decided, I'm going to betray. Like they didn't talk about this over the
well,
3 millennia that they had.
I get the young one falls in love with a boy, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
She
is
doesn't
fine.
want him dead. Fine, whatever. I get it.
Fresh
It's generic,
tactics.
but then the other two just like stabbing each other in the back for no reason. Like I was like, where did the wait? What did I miss? Was I on my phone? Like I was like, when did this buildup happen? Like they were arguing or not? I'm sure there was a single scene where Helen Mirren's character told her that no, we're gonna do it my way, and then like that's supposed to be good enough for me to think that the other sister, uh,
Would follow suit.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
is supposed to be like, nope, no, I guess we're at odds now. We totally disagree with each other. Yeah, it
And
was
before we leave
silly.
the plot, real quick,
I don't think
because I
we've
think
even
Mike might
touched the
have,
plot. I
maybe you,
think we've done
Chris.
mostly character at this
Yeah,
point.
you made a good point about the animated world of DC, which still by far is actually better than Marvel's animation series. The character Shazam and the movies that I've seen him in, Justice League and a couple other things, it makes more sense that he's a kid. He's also a kid as Shazam, and he has problems trying to fit in with an adult superhero group. And his confidence, which you said Spider Man, his confidence, all this power, and he's still not confident
Hmm.
himself. He's not sure. Like there's like content that he could have used for Shazam too, which they chose not to do. Like for whatever reason, they chose to give us what we saw with this storyline and this acting by Zach Levi and this villain story. And it looks to me, my first impression after watching it the first time and then watching it the second time was like they just didn't care. They just did a paint by
Uh,
numbers
I,
superhero movie
I always hate saying that they didn't
and we're
care. I just
hoping.
think they did a bad job. They can care all they want and still do a bad job. Like, um, let's look at it this
But the
way.
first movie gave you like a decent platform to get to the next
And
storyline,
they didn't go
and they
anywhere.
didn't
Okay.
even they didn't even match the first movie.
Well, this is where I don't want to talk about the further DCU yet, but I think they got stuck in this. Okay, how are we going to just make a Shazam movie and ignore the rest of the world while still having guest stars or guest appearances by DCU? Because one of the
Good
things
point.
that Marvel has done well is it says, okay, if we're going to have an Iron Man 3 and the Avengers exist, how do we take Iron Man away and not give him help? Well, we take his suit away. We land him in the middle of America. Nobody knows where he is. He's feeling a certain way. He doesn't want to contact anybody. So you separate him from the whole. Thor, we send him off world. He's got to go somewhere else. Nobody else can get there. We separate them from the whole. Here, you have the entire city of Philadelphia covered in a magic bubble, hitting the national news cycle.
By the way, for living and working in Philly for a year and a half, Philly does not look anything like what depicted
Does
in the
it
movie.
look like
Not at all.
Toronto in the movie? Does it normally look like Toronto or Atlanta?
It look like a CW supernatural series.
But anyway, so
I've seen Philly.
you have a universe that has obviously Wonder Woman can get there, Superman can get there, Flash can get there. All these heroes are like instantaneous heroes. That's the hard part about this. So there's a little annoyance in that. I'm just going to ignore it. But as a part of the further DCU, it the way they built this arc and having this Shazamly working in Philadelphia and then get trapped there for several days for some reason, like it that part of the
What was
thing
Amanda Waller and
doesn't work
like
for me.
she should have been activated immediately.
Right? Yeah, like Amanda Waller didn't think this was a problem or didn't didn't want to respond to this. So that's just another annoyance of the whole thing for me is if you're going to do this, have it happen over a 24-hour period where you can say, hey, the heroes were away, they're coming back, but it was taken care of by the time they get back. Like that, the kind of thing you have to
Exactly.
do. You have to think. I'm going to blame a lot of this on the overall DC brain trust, and that's going to be the people before James Gunn, because this was
James
all
Gunn.
happening and prep before James Gunn. In when you're creating a universe, you have to, even if things aren't going to uh, interact with the further universe, you have to kind of take a little bit into account. Now we have the same problem with like the Eternals, where everybody's like, "Hey guys, there's a giant robot mountain now up in the Antarctic. Nobody's talking about it." So we've seen this.
Although no, it was shown. It was featured in She-Hulk in a
It
news
was,
article. But
but
yeah,
they're
yeah.
starting to get there. But people make the same complaints. It's not just a DC thing. So I don't want people to think this is only because it's DC am I making this complaint. But the story as a whole, Billy having two arcs but not really having them, the rest of the Shazamly falling flat and not doing anything except for Freddy. And the bad guys didn't seem to do anything for me. They didn't uh Lucy Liu seemed like she was sitting on top of a dragon and not emoting at all. I thought that was a bit like I was like, is she giving me a bad guy performance? Like, what is she
She
doing? I'm
she
not
gave
sure.
a Michael Douglas and Ant-Man 2 performance. Stuck in a green screen, not knowing what's going on behind him.
And I love Lucy Liu. She's been in a lot of great cheesy.
Am I supposed to look this way, or am I
Right.
supposed to look this way?
Poor
She
Helen
does
Mirren,
great work in
man.
a lot of cheesy action movies, but for some reason I thought she was kind of flat here. I didn't think she was.
I felt sad for Helen Mirren, man. She went from
No,
Fast
Helen
Furious to
Mirren
this.
is in all of the great B movies, sci-fi. She doesn't care.
Red 2.
She'll do whatever movie you want her to do, and she'll give it. I thought she was given a good performance. I don't
Yeah,
I don't think it's beneath her because
debatable.
I think that she doesn't care. She'll come in and do a high end television show, or she'll do B action.
That's true.
She
That's true.
she gives it in all of them. I mean, how many fast movies has she been in?
2.
7, 8, 9.
And Hobbs and
She
Shaw.
was a 9.
Yeah,
She was a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
she was.
yeah, you're right. Right.
So I thought she was good. I thought she was fine, and I didn't have any problem with her.
And that's the plot, ladies and gentlemen.
I
See
don't
how
think
we
we've even
skirted
talked. It
around?
feels like we haven't given anybody
Because
information
there's no
about
plot.
plot.
There's nothing there. It's a cake with no filling.
All right, let's talk about. I want to talk about the hardest part here is you guys mentioned it already, and that is the fact that Shazam hasn't grown up, but Billy has, and this is what I think broke the movie just completely, and that's it. Zachary Levi and the director directing him still have this character as a one note character. He's still acting like he's 12 and he is not matured at all. And then you go back to Billy, and Billy's worried about his future. He's worried about being kicked out. He's worried about his family. He's worried about being, you know, do I need a job? Why isn't Shazam going around trying to find a job? That's a great comedy bit that you could have in there is Shazam trying to find a job rather than Billy. Like Billy goes in, can't get the job, so he goes in as Shazam. Like there's some funny stuff there that you could do with Billy trying to deal with growing up and sort of worried about being kicked out of the house. And that's some fun beats you can do. But he didn't really grow up, and by the end of the movie, his arc is he calls his mom, his stepmom, mom, and she says, "Yeah, you have a place to stay," and that's it. Like, that's not an arc. That's not how that works. There was no learning, and then he's trying to lead the family. We got to work together, and then the whole finale is him being trapped in a bubble alone and taking care of the whole thing. So
You said it all right there, Chris. I mean, it's terrible, man. It's terrible. Let's just be honest. Billy Batson was as the young version was a decent enough take on a coming of age story from a young teen to an young adult.
mhm.
They had something there they could have worked on. They chose not to. Shazam, again, I'm gonna keep reiterating the fact that it was a regression of the character of Shazam from the time lapse of the first movie to this movie. Um, and that's something that the writers really didn't give much attention to. And when I said that I don't think they cared, I mean like there's some basic steps you have to follow from one movie to the next.
Mhm, mhm.
And you mentioned the arc. There was no arc. There was nothing. It was a flat line, you know, of the two characters, and that's supposed to be your main protagonist. Now, you were lucky by pure luck that Freddy story was good enough to drag, to grab us to keep watching
Mhm.
his scenes and his moments in a movie. But then that was one character out of like everyone else in the Shazamily, whatever you call them.
Shazamly, yeah.
I mean, forget about the villains. Just focusing
Well,
on
him
the
and Rachel
heroes here.
Zegler were like a cute couple kind of a thing going, and it
Yeah,
kind
but
of
that didn't make
worked.
any sense. She was 6,000 years old, and she was dating this little
Okay, if
16-year-old
you
boy.
watch anime at all, this is a standard.
Doesn't
Always
make it
happens.
okay. Doesn't make it
I
all
mean,
right.
the anime fandom, they have some issues. I'm not going to bring it out here on
Hey,
this
this
podcast.
also happens in vampire stories. Same shit.
Hmm.
Several
The
hundred
goth
years old.
community has some issues. I'm not going to bring it up on this topic. But, I mean, Chris, you could slice it how many you want. I mean, maybe Mike has a better take on that, but my take is just a failure there. It's a failure what they could have done with the protagonist, the main
Oh yeah,
protagonist.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Sadly.
I guess we
I can't. Like, what am I gonna say? I can't defend it, man. So
no. So far we agree that the main protagonist didn't work. We agree that the villains didn't work. What's left? The Shazamly. Well, the Shazamly was left
Secondary
out in the
characters,
cold,
yeah.
like you guys. They were benched. You know,
yeah. So
Mary
I,
Marvel got to give like one big sister speech, and then
yeah.
stood around and asked a magic pen some questions, and that was as far as they went. Like none of them were given range or learning or advancement in their characters. The
And then they brought the wizard from the first movie, and they just mocked him. It was a mockery of the character from the first movie. Like, why even give him that many scenes and lines and dialogue when you're just gonna make him like a clown?
and the best scene of the movie is the girl without her powers and the black unicorn.
That was funny. I'm not
That
gonna
was
Dude,
even
funny.
lie.
I
I laughed out
literally I'm
loud.
sitting there with my
Yeah.
But
headphones on.
that was so. This was
Like
one major problem I had
laughed
with
out
the
loud.
movie
Uh-huh.
was I wanted more of the kids together. I wanted more of the kids on screen time with them. I think I mentioned this in our chat that why were they all just sitting around
Okay.
as Shazams in their lair talking about plans? Like I wanted to see the kids sitting around doing that. The way they designed the lair after they took it over, it was like a kid's cave. So why are
Yes.
all these Shazams sitting around? You know,
Mhm.
you would think
Mhm.
it would be all the kids,
That's
and
like
then
seeing Batman in a full cape and cowl, and
yeah,
every time he's in a
in
Batcave, he's
full
got the whole
uniform.
outfit on.
Right? It
Like,
doesn't make
what? Like,
sense.
you're home now. You should be.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they were.
and frankly, I mean, the kids when they were all together were better. They seemed to have more chemistry. You know, all the kids
Mhm. Mhm.
together, and it was just seemed like a waste. I wish they had used the kids
Okay,
more
so
for sure.
in I'm going to bring up Harry Potter for a minute and it's for a reason. So give me a second.
Oh boy, time for me to jump.
No, this is more about acting than it is about the movies, the storyline. So
Okay.
in like the sixth movie, I think maybe the fifth or sixth movie, there's a scene in which Hermione Granger has to change herself to be one of the adults to get into the one of the Gringotts, the bank, the Wizard Bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
in the production, what they did was they had Helena Bonham Carter play the part off camera. Do the scene off camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
As she would do it. Then they had uh uh what's her name? The actress who played Hermione. Sorry. Anyway,
Emma
Harry Potter.
Watson.
Emma Watson,
Emma
yeah.
Watson.
Then
Yes.
they had Emma Watson come in and try to mimic what she saw Helena Bonham Carter do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Oh, interesting.
Because she's playing that part. But then Helena Bonham Carter has to come in, do the real scene, but she's trying to mimic what the other person did, mimicking her. So
Right.
it's almost like this acting game of telephone
Yeah.
because each person has slightly different movements within their character, but they're trying to mimic what another character does. So, like, I wish in this movie you'd have the kids do something, and then you have these adults come in and try to mimic what they saw the way the kids do it. Because I think that would be a more natural affect way to have the adults feel more connected to these kid actors. Because that's who you respect. That's who's actually doing the action is the kids.
I
They're just
think
in
the
big
closest
bodies.
That's a good point. That's
I
a good
think the
point.
closest we had to that was Darla and superhero Darla,
Yes.
played by Megan Good. I think
Mhm.
she did a fantastic job,
Yes.
like trying to be in the mindset of that little girl. You
But
know what I mean?
I felt that they were still from movie one
Yeah.
version. They
again,
Right.
that's
kept
a
that
character that
chemistry.
doesn't grow. They didn't change at all. It was fine. The
Yeah.
performance was good, but like whereas the Billy character was supposed to change,
Yeah.
the Freddy character was supposed to change. Mary Marvel character was supposed to change. These
Oh, they changed. Whole different actress.
right, that's true. But
Yeah.
they're supposed to change, and it feels like their adult versions didn't change with them. And at some point, the kid stops looking like a kid, and you're like, why would just put him in the suit? Don't bother with a different actor at this point.
Yeah.
He's too old to be. Oh, there's a big difference. It's kind of the
Exactly.
hard thing about this. Anyway, all right. So, James, you mentioned the production. Let's talk about the production values. Um, there was a whole scene on a rooftop. Like I thought was like, wow, we're just running out of money then. Like if we're just gonna stand on the rooftop and talk about what's happening in the city for 15 minutes and have like 3 speeches by everybody. Like I was like, this is like a filler episode in the middle of a movie.
This is straight out of no, that was straight out of Justice League, but with more color. Remember
That's right.
Justice League when Alfred, Batman, Wonder Woman, that's Flash, and
That
Cyborg were all on
segment
that
was
rooftop
directed by
talking?
Zack Snyder.
Yeah, it's just more lighting though. It wasn't as dark as that scene.
Right.
Yeah, that's the impression I got of that
I
scene.
mean, they're supposed to be
But it wasn't
giving
even just
it's
that.
supposed to be the pep talk scene where everybody hashes it out and then they save the world. But it was just like it was just felt really long and just really encumbered. Like it
Yeah.
didn't really land at all. Whereas in the first one, you sort of had that, but then Billy jumps off the roof, screams Shazam, you get that cool visual,
Still the dopest shot in the entire franchise.
and it works because you have this big just event that follows it up. It gets somewhere. This didn't feel like it got anywhere. I mean, you got the hugs, you got the we're gonna work, you're gonna go get in the van, but
Hmm.
it was just boring. Just like boring, I think.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of the monsters destroying the city while they stalked on the rooftop?
Getting even
Nothing.
worse and worse.
Nothing spectacular. It was fine. Like,
They were okay.
yeah, they were fine. Like standard monster fare. Destroying the city. The
Dude,
unicorns
we're
were
lowering
cool.
our standards lower and lower.
You know what?
This was even worse than Black Adam monsters in that movie. Remember the zombies came
Yeah.
out with
Oh,
the
the
skeletons,
worst
like
zombie
video
army
game
ever.
skeletons,
The zombie
Uh,
army can be taken over by a kid with a skateboard. Yeah.
yeah.
skateboard.
But
These
I did
felt
like
that
the
bad.
unicorns. I like that they weren't looked like
Pretty.
My Little Pony unicorns. Yeah. So that was cool.
That reminded me of that Robot Chicken episode with the Four Horsemen of Apocalypse, My Little Pony.
If
Death Pony.
if this movie was more popular, this would be a huge goth girl like mascot coming in. Like it definitely would be like a big. But this movie isn't going anywhere, so nobody's gonna see it.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was fine. The wood dragon was fine. The monsters were fine. I didn't have any problems with them visually per se.
Right. Nothing spectacular, but nothing terrible.
I think it's more to the fact that the rest of the movie was so bad. Like I'm glad they didn't spend any extra time or money on making these overly
I don't
great.
know, man. You guys are giving this so much of a pass.
What do you mean? We're
Like,
talking
to me,
about how terrible
an
it
average-
is for 45 minutes.
Listen, no, the production was terrible. Also, let's just say that it wasn't okay, like Mike said. Like, to me, average was Thor, Love and Thunder, where they had some scenes with the night in color. It wasn't fantastical, but it was like, oh wow, this is cool and creative. I'll give it like the average.
Okay, so you're looking for creative.
This is way below that.
Yeah, I didn't think it
That's
was.
what I'm trying to get at.
I didn't think
We're giving this. We're grading it on a curve. We shouldn't be grading on a curve. We should be honest. When you compare this with other movies,
I didn't hate it though. I didn't hate it.
Star Wars.
I didn't hate the production of it. So
I think the difference is if I say production, I just mean like the physical value of the production. You're looking for the creativity in there of the design.
The physical value was the home set. Hold on, it was the home set.
Mm-hmm.
It was the prison that the wizard was locked in,
which is really
the rooftop,
boring.
And then the outdoor patio dining cafeteria he was in. Like, where else was the production? Everything else
the
was
rooftop of the school where they dropped the teacher off the side of the school. I can't believe he did that. I really cannot believe
that was a little dark.
They just dropped the
tone.
teacher.
We're not talking about tone of the movie, but the tone of the movie was also a problem.
It was a little all over
you
the
go
place.
from that dark, like now I'm like, okay, this movie's about to get a little bit, and then it went to like Skittles, Taste of Rainbow. I'm like,
you want to talk about tone? You know what really annoyed me when Wonder Woman showed up? They were at a funeral, burying their son/brother, and when Wonder Woman showed up, all of a sudden they were all starstruck and happy.
It's Wonder Woman.
Like, dude. Like, if I'm burying my brother and Obama showed up, I'd be like, well, thanks for coming to pay your respect. But I'm not getting all excited because my brother's lying there right there on the ground.
Did you pull out the hey, can I get your autograph?
Yeah.
You know what this... I'm glad you brought up the Wonder Woman thing because I wasn't sure if we get to it.
If you haven't watched this and you're not...
hold
on a second. If you're not planning on watching this because it's terrible, the reason we're talking about Wonder Woman is because... Spoiler alert, Billy dies, and then Wonder Woman comes and revives him.
If you got this far, yeah.
That's it.
If you're here now, sorry. So Wonder Woman's character to me, from inception of Justice League, the Joss Whedon version, through her own first movie, through the Joss Whedon second, the Zack Snyder version, through Wonder Woman 2, 84, and now this cameo has gone downhill. And I say that because the first shot you see of Wonder Woman within the main movie is her backside, a cameo. He's standing there. He's talking to her at the restaurant. Another production.
They're like on a date.
Restaurant.
They're on a dream date.
That's the dream one.
And she turns around.
Yeah.
And he turns around. She turns around as really the wizard trying to communicate with him. And I'm like, okay, they couldn't really get Gal Gadot in this movie, so they threw us with this little. I'm like, that's a disrespect to the character, but whatever. Then her cameo
I get
at the end,
but yeah, it was kind of.
I'm like Wonder Woman now is like deep to the point where I can't even see Gal Gadot playing this role again because, like, with how they dragged her character from the first movie all the way to this point, I'm like, wow, she's relegated to this whack ass closing credit scene.
I don't know. Henry Cavill did the same thing at the end of Black Adam. So
yeah, but let's be honest. Henry Cavill, his character was done with me from Justice League. He was done after Justice League, the Joss Whedon version. Didn't matter after that. Like, it was done. Only the Snyder cult people wanted to see him again after that movie. But Gal Gadot was still getting in. She was still like, all right, she's the last remaining, and then came her second movie. So to me, I'm like, why did she agree to this movie? Like, it must have been a huge payback for her to accept this, like, this terrible little scene that she comes in trying to be elegant, and she takes the freaking staff, and then only a power of a god can, and then she just happens to show up, and I'm like, come on, like this is like a slap in my face
Okay,
for her
where were
character.
they? Can I ask where the hell they were when they buried him?
At the Philadelphia Zoo, I don't
No,
know.
it looked like the other realm where the Daughters of Atlas were from. They were
So
on top of the.
so how did Wonder Woman get there? How did she
That's a
even
good
know they were
question.
there?
And where the hell was she when the Daughters of Atlas were trying to take over the planet?
First arrive. If anything, they should have been chasing her first as
Right.
the last demigod.
Look,
It would have been after her. Forget
Yep.
about
I'm
Shazam.
mad enough that Wonder Woman is not tracking different doing this. This actually had a better bad guy than Wonder Woman having a magic like thing artifact. Wonder Woman 84. This is better
The,
than Wonder Woman
the
84.
Wishmaster. Yeah.
Like I can no longer see her now. After that cameo, I'm done. Like
Sorry,
she could join
I
Cavill
never
and Ben
could in the
Affleck.
first place. I always
No, I
said she
liked her.
was
She
not
was
right
great in
for.
the first movie. She was fantastic.
No. She was good in the first movie. Yes,
Yeah.
she was good in the first. She was
Let's not
great
get
in the
carried
first
away
movie.
now.
But it also had Chris
I'm
Pine,
not gonna
Chris Pining it
relitigate
up.
this.
And if you
Right.
don't have enough Chris
Yeah,
Pine
I'm
to
not gonna
Chris Pine, then you can't
relitigate
Chris
Gal
Pine.
Gadot's role in the first Wonder Woman was outstanding. But ever since that first movie, the cameo was
It's
a
been
death
better.
nail to me.
So okay, so I don't even know what do you guys want to talk about next. If we didn't like the production, we didn't think the story held up, we thought the characters were failing. Where are we at?
Honestly, I just want to grade this thing and be done with it.
No, hold on. Let's talk about the fact that
Connection?
we didn't get a Black Adam with this
Okay,
movie.
Oh,
let's
right. We got
let's
to
talk
talk
about
about
the
Dwayne
the
Johnson.
Black
Yeah.
Adam connection or the lack thereof. Yeah. All right, so
So again, in the DC animated universe, we know that these characters interact quite a bit. Obviously, in the comics as well, which everything is based on. This movie, the sequel to the first movie, did not give us that um, the dynamic between the two of them because The Rock, being who he is, was vehemently against his character being any sort of cameo in Shazam 2. He wanted a straight shot at Superman. He didn't care the fact that his character revolved around Shazam and the Wizard and the gods. He just wanted to change the hierarchy of DC Power Universe by facing everybody against Superman. So, for those who were DC diehard fans and we were hoping to get these two characters in a movie, we know now for sure we'll never get it. I think the fact that two things here: one, an in-universe movie, it was a disservice not at least giving us a cameo of Black Adam, knowing that Shazam exists, and maybe at the end, he could be back in the Middle East country that he's from, and he could have heard, okay, there's another being with the Shazam powers. I need to look into this, right? Now, real life IRL, The Rock also did a disservice to DC. Actually, it wasn't even DC; it was Warner Brothers. He leapfrogged the DC creators and went straight to Warner Brothers and said he wanted no part of that universe. And I think he did a disservice to both himself as Black Adam and the Shazam family and characters. That's my take on that.
yeah, I it really annoys me because if he wanted to, if the DC powers that be wanted to, this could have been something really fascinating. A little trilogy within the larger universe of Shazam and Black Adam. Would have been the first time that a antagonist and protagonist both got their own individual movies that we got.
No, second time, Spider-Man and Venom.
Okay, let I'm not going to talk about the Sony's failure here. Where they got their own movies and then met together within the universe, because right now Venom doesn't happen in a Spider-Man universe, so they're still completely different. But it would have been the first time we would have seen that. You get a Shazam movie, you get a
Yeah.
Black Adam movie, then bam, they meet, and you get at odds. It'd be great. Could have been awesome. Also, though, you'd have to make it would make a more interesting story. And I was telling you guys on chat that you have this story with Black Adam that they didn't end up doing, that they were this close on. They had all the pieces set up about.
Hey guys, sorry, I'll be right back. Okay,
All
I
right.
gotta.
They had this colonialism story basically in Black Adam that they sort of talked about, but didn't really go in depth at all. They turned it into Hawkman versus Black Adam, brawl it out. It was kind of dumb,
Demon dude at the
right?
end. Yeah.
But then you end and you've got Black Adam being the hero of his own bit, and he was so interested in being part of the Superman talking that they missed the trick here. Is that what Shazam 2 could have been was Waller tricking Billy into thinking he needed to go to Black Adam's house and recruit him. And Black Adam's not going to take it. Billy doesn't know any better, and create the conflict that would, get us somewhere with those two characters. And we're like, the pieces are all kind of sitting out on the board, but they didn't do anything with them. They failed to make an interesting story with the characters that they have that should be interacting. And some of that is
I can't blame the writers and creators. That's The Rock. That's Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who was very much against being part of that franchise. So you can only work with the tools you have in your set. And if he already took himself off the board, then you have to create, I guess, these daughters of
some other
Atlas or whatever other villain. So that's on The Rock.
Well, I think it goes back further than that. That it shows these people, the DC universe never had any ideas, never had any inkling of where they were going. They said, "Oh, there's this big dude that's very popular. What role do you want to play?" He said, "Black Adam," and they went, "Great, do whatever you want." Like, there was no. It's not even just planning, but just like sketching out some ideas of how this big huge place is going to go. And sometimes you get lucky and no one notices and you're ahead of the curve and you get the MCU and everything just kind of finds its way and works its way out.
And remember, Kevin Feige used to get attacked on for hiring directors that had to play within the MCU sandbox. Remember, like the first Ant-Man director wasn't Peyton Reed, it was someone else,
right,
who quit halfway through. Patty Jenkins quit on Thor 2. So, I mean, you've seen the other side where if you have like a universe and you want to maintain continuity, certain directors either have to play with it or choose not to. Whereas DC, it was like a free for all, and now you see what happens with the free for all. So it's like, double-edged sword.
Well, and that's a weird thing. It was supposed to be, hey, this is a place where director vision can happen, and it will get better stories for it. But we haven't. We haven't seen director vision creating better stories. We Wonder Woman 84, Shazam 2, Black Adam, all of that stuff. BVS was all director vision stuff, and it all kind of blew up. Like it never felt in a way, not even individually, as a super artistic vision of each thing. There's good and bad parts. There's good parts to each thing, but I just don't think it never felt that super creative side that you're supposed to get when you have a singular person in charge, as opposed to a studio level.
Oh, we're about to see with James Gunn.
All right,
we'll talk about that after our grades.
Yeah, let's grade this thing. I don't think they're going to be too great. Mike, I'll let you go first.
Whew, boy. Okay. I didn't hate this movie as much as everybody else seems to have. But for me, I'm gonna go with like a C- on this one. Mm-hmm. It's not a D for doo-doo. There's a lot of terrible films out there. This wasn't terrible. This was far from good, though. So yeah, C- for me.
All right, James.
D for doo-doo.
Knew it was coming. It's all right. what I expected, but it's right. I'm actually gonna go C, straight C. Now it seems high, but I was talking to my son, and I was trying to explain all the terrible plot and the acting and whatnot. But I'm like, if I sat down with a group of people, we'd have a lot of fun watching this. Like, some movies I just get tired watching. I don't want anything to do with it, sitting and watching it. But I would sit down and watch this with a group of people and have fun with it. Kind of like, you guys hate me, Green Lantern. This feels like right at that Green Lantern level of it's terrible.
Yes, it does.
It's
That was
terrible,
also a D.
but I can have fun with it while it's being terrible. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but I have fun with it being terrible.
You know what I would have fun being terrible? Velocipaster. That was a terrible movie.
Sure, why
yet
not?
I had fun watching that movie.
Exactly. All right. Well,
Cocaine Bear was better than this movie, by the way.
I still have to watch that. All right. Now
it was a better movie. Even the story was a better story. Jesus.
All right. This is Shazam 3, where he finds a brick of cocaine in the Canadian wilderness, and he inhales it. All right. All right. Let's, Mike, where can everybody find us to give us their insane theories on Shazam 3?
So yeah, let us know what you thought of the movie. Like, find us on the internet at Heroes Peak, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell in the corner to get notifications, and leave a comment below. Let us know. Did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? What'd you think?
All right.
And if you liked the movie, tell us what parts of the movie did you find very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mike and Chris are.
We're not saying it's good,
but maybe I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. It's terrible. It's just how much fun you can have with it. If you
enjoyed the movie, tell us what you liked about the movie. I'm interested to hear from someone else.
That's right. All right. Thanks for joining me this week, guys. We will be back next week with, I don't even know what, Mandalorian maybe? Is the Mandalorian over next week?
No, not yet.
Check the agenda.
That's your job, right?
I know.
All right, guys.
Hey,
we'll see.
Indigo made the beat.